The NASCAR Cup Series playoffs kick off this weekend at Darlington Raceway, the Southern 500. So today on Out of the Groove, I'm going to go round by round and take a deep dive into the statistics and give you all my full 2021 playoff predictions. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. I hope you all are having a fantastic week. We have a busy episode ahead. If you missed it earlier this morning, actually, we talked to Spencer Boyd, NASCAR Camping World Truck Series driver, talked to him about all things Truck Series. So be sure to check that out from this morning if you missed it. And also, in case you missed it, I will be at Darlington this weekend and I'll actually be hanging out outside the track at the NASCAR pole position tent from 11 a.m. to noon. So if you want to stop by, you can say hi to me. Also pick up some epic sponsor swag. Also, it is Thursday, so the latest edition of the Out of the Groove Weekly Viewers Guide is out. You can read the latest by clicking the link down in the description below. And now that we've got that covered, let's talk NASCAR playoffs. 16 drivers enter, only one will emerge victorious in November. Everyone's filling out their playoff bracket this week, so that's what we're gonna do here on Out of the Groove. I am taking this very seriously. I've done a ton of research, taken deep analytical dives into every single playoff driver's performance at all these different types of tracks. So hopefully my predictions today are on point, but we're gonna go through them together. Let's kick this video off by looking at the playoff grid going into race 1 at Darlington. Kyle Larson has a massive lead over the rest of the field. 5 wins in the regular season, 12 stage wins to lead all drivers by far. So he goes into this first round already 47 points above the cut line. It's a pretty steep drop off to guys like Ryan Blaney, Truex, Kyle Busch. The next Hendrick driver is 5th. That's Chase Elliott, the defending series champion. There's basically a 3-way tie for the final transfer spot. Christopher Bell, Michael McDowell is right there, Eric Almirola as well, but shockingly, Kevin Harvick, who was the #1 seed last year in the playoffs, dominated the regular season, was many people's championship pick. He was the 1 seed just a year ago. This year, he is the last seed in the playoffs, 16th. No race wins, no stage wins, but that won't stop Kevin Harvick. He's gonna give it his best effort. Maybe the closer can really live up to his nickname in these final 10 races. He has a steep hill to climb, but there you have it. That is what the playoff grid looks like before anyone takes a lap in the postseason. The playoffs begin with the round of 16, Darlington, Richmond, and Bristol. Basically three night races, 2 short tracks, all 3 ovals using the 750 horsepower low downforce rules package. An action-packed way to kick off the playoffs. Here are the 12 drivers I think will move on past this first round. Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Kevin Harvick, Kurt Busch, and Christopher Bell. That means, as you can see, Brad Keselowski, Tyler Reddick, Eric Almirola, and Michael McDowell. I have them being eliminated in the first round. Now let me explain the method to this madness right here. I have to say the round of 16 was maybe the most difficult round for me to pick doing my research beforehand, because I feel like there's clearly 7 or 8 drivers that are the class of the field this season, but then from about, 10th to about 16th, it's very close. There were a couple pretty easy choices in this one. I mean, no disrespect, but Eric Almirola, Michael McDowell, if not for their wins, McDowell at Daytona, Almirola, which he earned at New Hampshire, they wouldn't be anywhere close to the playoffs this season. Eric Almirola and Michael McDowell had by far the worst average finish of anyone in the playoffs during this year's regular season. Almirola did nab a 6th at Richmond earlier this season, but he crashed out at Darlington on lap 7, so he's gonna have to bounce back in a big way this weekend. The one thing Almirola does have going for him is he's been pretty strong at the 750 ovals this year. He won at New Hampshire, obviously. He was 4th at Nashville Superspeedway. He was running 12th or 13th at Dover this year when he blew a tire, so he's been decent with this rules package, but I don't see him being in the top 12. Michael McDowell deserves a ton of credit. Winning the Daytona 500, he stayed in the top 20 in regular season points through the first 26 races. That's a great year for Front Row Motorsports, but his strengths this year outside Daytona have been the road courses, and there are no road courses in this first round. In fact, earlier this year, he finished 27th at both Richmond and Darlington, and he doesn't have any top 10s period this season since Circuit of the Americas all the way back in May. So I think the 34 team peaked early this season. They're happy to be in the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be around for very long. Now, the other 2 drivers I have getting eliminated this round may be a bit more controversial. I love Tyler Reddick. I'm thrilled to see him in the playoffs, putting RCR on the map this season. Avoided the sophomore slump. That's amazing. He's been very consistent this season. He has not shown really race winning pace at any point this season, and I feel like once we get into the playoffs, and I showed you the points earlier, Tyler Reddick comes into the first round already below the cut line. I think he's going to need to show race winning speed. RCR in the first round last year with Austin Dillon showed some great pace, but I highly doubt they're going to be able to replicate that emergence in 2021. Tyler Reddick this year at Richmond and Darlington finished 20th and 12th. The last time we raced at Bristol, he finished inside the top 5 actually in 2020, so maybe that is his shot to punch his ticket into the next round. I mentioned how McDowell and Almirola have the worst average finish of anyone in the playoffs. Tyler Reddick's is much more respectable. He has the 12th best average finish out of the 16 playoff drivers, but given he's already in a slight points deficit, a slight points hole, given that he hasn't shown winning speed at any point this year, I feel like Darlington is his best shot to surprise us, to run top 5 the way Austin Dillon did in this race last year. Reddick typically likes to run the high line. That's the preferred line around Darlington. Let's see how Darlington goes. If he doesn't run top 5 at Darlington, I think this first round will be pretty much it for Tyler Reddick. Unfortunately, there are just too many really good super teams ahead of him, and as great as it is to see RCR in the playoffs, it would be monumental for them to get past the round of 16 with Tyler Reddick. Brad Keselowski is one of those super team drivers that I have actually being eliminated in this first round. Let me explain why. Keselowski only has 1 win this year, and it was at Talladega, a super speedway. At Richmond and Darlington earlier this year, he finished 24th and 14th. Honestly, his best race this season, in my opinion, was New Hampshire earlier this summer, where he led 63 laps and finished 3rd. And that was a 1-mile track with the 750 horsepower rules package, but Loudon's a flat speedway, and Darlington, Bristol, high banked, even Richmond has more banking than Loudon. I think Bristol is Brad Keselowski's best bet. He's won 3 times at Bristol in his career, but I'm just not feeling Brad Keselowski. He does not bring any momentum into these playoffs. 3 of his last 4 finishes coming into the playoffs have been outside the top 20. And let's face it, he's in a lame duck season. He will not be returning to Team Penske next year. He already knows it. The team already knows it. The world already knows it. Of course, Penske still wants to win the championship this year. Keselowski still wants to win the championship this year, but in the back of everyone's mind, they know this is it for this pairing, this long-time couple. And so when I consider all these extra factors, I just don't think Brad Keselowski makes a deep playoff run this year. It has not been a typical dominant great season for Keselowski, a guy who usually wins 3 or 4 races a year. You can count on it. He has not been that guy this season. That has not been that team this season. I think Brad Keselowski bows out early in this year's playoffs. I got Christopher Bell moving on past this round. He's a Joe Gibbs Racing driver. JGR cars are usually fast with the 750 horsepower package, so I'm betting on that. Also, Christopher Bell was riding a serious wave of momentum until the last 2 or 3 weeks. He's had some issues, super speedway race. The Indy road course was chaotic. But before these last couple races, Bell had finished 2nd, 8th, 2nd, 7th in 4 straight weeks. He was on a tear. He finished 4th at Richmond earlier this year. I like Christopher Bell's odds of moving on past this round. Kevin Harvick, I mentioned him earlier. He's the 16 seed. He is the lowest seed in the playoffs, but he's Kevin Harvick. He's a veteran. He's a champion. What's shocking to me is Harvick didn't win any stages this year. He didn't win any races this year, yet he still managed the 4th best average finish of anyone in the Cup Series throughout these first 26 races. He's just been consistently, 7th, 8th, 9th place, week in, week out. And honestly, I think that's good enough to get you through this first round. Kevin Harvick has done a pretty good job this year of avoiding the catastrophic race. And that's what you need to do to survive this first round, in my opinion. So I think Harvick makes it. And speaking of avoiding catastrophic races, Kurt Busch, another veteran driver who I think will move on, he's gone 11 straight races without finishing outside of the top 20. He's not winning a whole lot. He only has 1 win this year. He dominated that Atlanta race, also won a stage, but he's avoided many catastrophic races where he just runs terribly or makes a bad mistake and finishes 30th. Kurt Busch is not that guy, so I think he will survive this first round. And a lot of people will talk about Ryan Blaney, who historically flamed out in the first round last season, but I think this is a different Ryan Blaney this year. He finished 11th at Richmond earlier this season, 8th at Darlington. Those numbers are good enough to get you through this first round. He's also riding a serious wave of momentum. He's won the last 2 races to wrap up the regular season. I think he's put last year behind him. I don't think we'll see a repeat of last year's first round for Ryan Blaney. He's got a better points cushion this season. I think Ryan Blaney makes it past the first round. So there you have it. Brad Keselowski, Tyler Reddick, Eric Almirola, and Michael McDowell. They are the first 4 drivers out of the round 16. I know, a lot of data I'm throwing around here. Let's move on to the round of 12. Las Vegas. Vegas Motor Speedway, Talladega Superspeedway, and the Charlotte Roval. A wide variety of racetracks in this second round. Intermediate Superspeedway Road Course. Whoa. 8 drivers advance in the round of 12, and they will be Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and William Byron. Which means, yes, Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, those veterans I just spoke very highly of, they will be eliminated this round, as well as some younger drivers. Christopher Bell, his first playoff appearance will come to an end in the round of 12, and it may be surprising to some of you, Alex Bowman. I think this is the round Alex Bowman's season ends. Let me start with the veteran drivers, Kevin Harvick, Kurt Busch. Especially in Harvick's case, he just doesn't have many playoff points. Kurt Busch doesn't have many either. He basically got all of his playoff points this year in that Atlanta race, but still not many. Kurt Busch finished 19th at Vegas earlier this year. His best finish at any super speedway this season was 12th. I just don't love Kurt Busch's odds. Now, Kevin Harvick, honestly, and this is kind of surprising to say, Kevin Harvick's best shot in this round of 12 is Talladega. If he can win Talladega or finish second and have some competitors wreck out, that's his ticket into the next round. That's the only hope I think he has. The SHR cars have not been good at the intermediate tracks. He finished 20th at Las Vegas earlier this year, but he finished 4th in the Daytona 500, 4th at Talladega earlier this year, so the super speedways may be where it's at for Kevin Harvick. As far as the Roval is concerned, he's finished 11th, 3rd, and 9th at the past 3 years at the Roval. Pretty good numbers, but I don't see him beating, Chase Elliott or Martin Truex Jr. for the win, and I think a win may be what it takes to get Kevin Harvick, Mr. Only 2 playoff points Kevin Harvick, past this round. So Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, I think get eliminated. Christopher Bell, Joe Gibbs Racing driver. This is a tough one because he finished 7th at Las Vegas earlier this season. I think he has a good shot at contending there, and we've seen how good he is at road courses this year, winning at the Daytona road course, coming in 2nd at Road America. The problem is Bell is likely going to enter the round of 12 on or just below the cut line, needing to make up points. I just don't see him running well enough at Las Vegas to confidently make up points there. Talladega is obviously a crapshoot, so it's all going to come down to the Roval for Christopher Bell. Can he get a solid top 5? Might even need a win at that point, and I know he did it earlier this year at Daytona, but I just don't see Christopher Bell beating Chase Elliott or Kyle Larson straight up at a road course in the playoffs. So unfortunately, I think Bell gets eliminated this round. And then Alex Bowman, a Hendrick driver. That's right, Hendrick has been so good this year, but I have Bowman out in the round of 12. Bowman has been good this year with the 750 horsepower rules package. 2 of his 3 wins have come with the 750 package. He kind of lucked into that win at Pocono when Larson blew a tire in front of him. This round of 12 doesn't have any 750 horsepower ovals in it. He finished 27th at Las Vegas earlier this season, and he's crashed out of 2 of the 3 super speedway races. Yes, he has 3 wins this year, but he's been consistently the slowest of the 4 Hendrick drivers. If we actually look at his average finish for the season, he's kind of towards the bottom of the 16 playoff drivers. 10th isn't bad, but I don't think that's good enough to make the round of 8. So that's why I have Alex Bowman getting eliminated. His best shot is going to be the Charlotte Roval, in my opinion, where he has tremendous numbers, actually. 8th, 2nd, and 4th in his 3 Charlotte Roval starts. This year's been kind of iffy at road courses. His best finish at a road course this season was Circuit of the Americas. He was 8th. So he's certainly been outshined by his teammates at road courses this year, but historically he's been pretty good. He at least gets good finishes at the Charlotte Roval, even when he's maybe making some enemies out there like last season. But putting all your eggs in the Charlotte Roval basket, I just think that's tough for anyone not named Chase Elliott. He has to be the favorite for that race, and anyone else who's looking at it as a must-win might be a losing effort in my opinion. So those are the 4 drivers I have getting eliminated. Some people might be surprised I have Joey Logano moving on past this round. He only has 1 win this season, but he's tied for the 2nd most number of stage wins this year. He got a top 10 at Las Vegas earlier this year. He's a great road course racer, and we know he's a great super speedway racer. Yeah, he's been caught up in a couple of crashes, and maybe he sort of started the crash in the Daytona 500 this year, but he's also led laps in every super speedway race this year, so he will likely be in contention at the end of the Talladega race. Does he make the right move in crunch time? Does he make the wrong move? Does he set off a wreck? That could derail him, but I think Joey Logano, at least I'm confident he will be in contention late in that race, and I can't say the same about most other drivers in the field. I mentioned he's good at road courses. He's got 3 top 5s at road courses this season as well in the 6 road course races they've run. So Joey Logano, good, well-rounded driver. I think he moves on past this round. Ryan Blaney, he's won at the Charlotte Roval before. He's one of the best super speedway racers in the Cup Series. He's won 3 of the last 8 super speedway races. And the other race this round is Las Vegas. Blaney has a win with the 550 horsepower package at a mile and a half Atlanta. Atlanta. Kind of similar to Vegas, not exactly, but at least the same rules package. I think Blaney will move on past this round. He's got a lot of playoff points coming in. And William Byron's another dude who's been sneaky this season. He's only got one win, but he's been quietly one of the most consistent drivers in the Cup Series all year long. He finished 8th at Las Vegas earlier this year. He was 2nd at Talladega back in the spring. He led laps at Daytona this past weekend, so he's a pretty good super speedway racer. He obviously won at Daytona last year. But for William Byron, the focus will be on the Charlotte Roval. He doesn't need to win that race, but a top 5 is certainly within the realm of possibility. He's led 23 and 27 laps in the past 2 Charlotte Roval races. He's had speed at the road courses this year, even though more often than not, something seems to derail him, whether it's a wreck, whether some sort of issue. He's led laps at the Indy Road Course, Road America, and Sonoma, but he has 4 finishes this year outside the top 20 at road courses, so he's gonna need to avoid that catastrophic race at the Roval, but if he does, if he finishes where he runs, he will move on to the round of 8, no problem. So there you have it. Those are the 8 drivers I have moving on to the round of 8. Now let's narrow it down to the final 4. The tracks in the round of 8 are interesting. 2 mile and a halfs, Kansas and Texas, that race very differently, and then the half-mile paperclip known as Martinsville to wrap things up and set the lineup for Phoenix. Here are the 4 drivers I have moving on to the championship. Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, and Kyle Busch. Yes, which means Hamlin, Blaney, Byron, and Logano will be eliminated in the round of 8. The interesting thing about this round is that everyone's raced at all 3 of these tracks already this season. So Kyle Larson finished 19th at Kansas, but he led 132 laps, so that final restart screwed him up. He won the Texas All-Star race, and then he finished 5th at Martinsville. Kyle Larson's got the most playoff points by far. Again, as long as he avoids really 2 bad races in a row, may even take 3 bad races in a row the way he's gone this year. As long as he avoids that, Kyle Larson will make it to Phoenix for the championship. No worries with me. Martin Truex Jr. was 6th at Kansas earlier this year, 13th in the Texas All-Star race, and of course he won a grandfather clock at Martinsville in the spring, so I feel good about Martin Truex Jr., another guy who's won 3 times this year. He's been quiet lately, but I think as the playoffs progress, he's going to get better and better. He's a previous champion under this format. I think Truex makes it in without any issue. And then it gets interesting. Chase Elliott, the defending series champion, finished 5th at Kansas earlier this year. He was 3rd in the Texas All-Star race, 2nd at Martinsville. And I should say this, I'm throwing in the Texas All-Star race stats. That race had so many weird formats, and of course it was a slightly different rules package than they're going to race at Texas this time around. I'm still throwing it in there, but I should put an asterisk next to the Texas number. Chase Elliott proved last year that he can win with his back against the wall. So even if something goes wrong and he's in a must-win scenario at Martinsville, he proved just a year ago that he can get it done when the pressure is on. Hendrick cars have been fast all year. I think Chase Elliott makes the championship 4. And then Kyle Busch is my 4th driver getting in. He won at Kansas earlier this year, finished 9th in the Texas All-Star race, and was 10th at Martinsville. Kyle Busch, this is an interesting year for Kyle Busch. It's been better than last season for him, where at this point he had 0 wins this time a year ago. The 550 package seems to be his strong suit. He's spoken out against it many times the last couple of years, but that seems to be where most of his wins come from. 2 550 horsepower races in this round, I think bodes well for Kyle Busch. And then we know when push comes to shove, he's a great race car driver. He can go get it done at Martinsville, or at the very least be competitive. He wouldn't be my pick to win that race, but a top 5 is certainly a distinct possibility. All these drivers I just mentioned, Chase Elliott, Larson, Busch, and Truex, they have a good number of playoff points already stacked up. That's one thing I like about this playoff format. It puts an added emphasis on the final 10 races, and the deeper you get into the playoffs, the more and more pressure is put on each race. So it does focus on the last 10, but it doesn't ignore the success you've had in the first 26 races. Wins in the regular season, stage wins in the regular season, help you all the way to November in Phoenix. And I think Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., who've won 2 and 3 races, Chase Elliott's won 2 races, they've all won a bunch of stages. Obviously Larson, those playoff points are going to give them an advantage late in the playoffs. Now, some of these drivers I have getting eliminated also have some decent playoff points, but Denny Hamlin, who I have being eliminated this round, 0 wins this year. He's won a bunch of stages. Yeah, he finished 2nd in the regular season standing, so he does have some playoff points, but not as many as Larson or Truex. And he was 12th at Kansas earlier this year. He was last in the Texas All-Star race. He's always really good at Martinsville, so I think you have to watch out for Denny Hamlin at the paperclip. But at no point this season so far has he proven he can win races. He's led some laps here and there. Again, he's won some stages, but Denny Hamlin has not won a race this season. So until he wins a race, which he could very well do in the playoffs, I'll be shocked if he goes this whole year without winning a race. But until he does, I don't feel confident in him winning in a must-win situation at Martinsville this fall. So I think Hamlin gets eliminated. The Penske guys are tough ones to predict. Joey Logano doesn't have as many playoff points as a lot of these other guys, so that's part of what I think is working against him. He did win Kansas last year in this round to get to the championship 4. He could do that again this season. I'm not ruling it out. He was 17th at Kansas earlier this season. I know that came down to late race restarts and stuff, but just worth pointing out. Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing have been the two best teams this year, which is why I think they're both going to get 2 cars in the championship for. Penske has come on strong lately, namely Ryan Blaney, and Ryan Blaney's a tough one. I almost put Ryan Blaney in the championship for because he's pretty good at Martinsville. He's been good at the 550 tracks this year, but I just don't know if I trust Ryan Blaney or if I trust Team Penske just yet, because again, Hendrick has been dominant at times this year. Joe Gibbs Racing, with their veteran drivers like Busch, Hamlin, Truex, they've looked dominant at times this year. I haven't seen dominance at any point this season from any of the Penske drivers. Even Blaney, who has 3 wins this year, they've all been late race wins. He ran down Larson late at Atlanta earlier this year. Obviously Daytona, it's a super speedway race. I mean, he deserves it, but it's a super speedway race. And Michigan the week before, again, a bunch of late race restarts, got a huge push on that final restart. Another late race win. Penske has not dominated any races. And I think once you get down to the round of 8, once you get down to those final 3 races before the championship, you got to be able to earn a win straight up. I don't think you can rely on maybe a fluky late race restart or a nice push at the right time to get that win. It could happen. It absolutely could happen. But when you're battling the best and the best late in the playoffs like this, you cannot expect it to happen. So Ryan Blaney's been great this year. This is a breakout season, I'd say, for Ryan Blaney, which has been fantastic to watch, but I just don't have enough confidence to put him in the championship for. So both Penske guys I have being eliminated. And then William Byron's an interesting one. I mentioned it earlier. He's only got 1 win this season, but he's been quiet and consistent. Even the tracks in this round, he was 9th at Kansas earlier this year, 7th at the Texas All-Star race, both not bad, and 4th at Martinsville. But only 1 win means he's 7th on the playoff grid going into these playoffs, so come round of 8 time, he'll probably be at a slight points deficit. I just don't think he's going to be able to make that up. Not when his competition is Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott. He's been good, but I don't think he's been quite as good. He has not shown the explosiveness at any point this season that those other drivers I just mentioned that I have finishing ahead of him have shown at points this season. And I think once you get to the round of 8, it's tough to just be consistent, to just 7th place your way to a championship for. It's hard to do that. I don't know if anyone has been able to do that since the playoff points era of the playoff grid was implemented. Like Ryan Newman in 2014 does not count because they did not have playoff points transferring through the rounds. That was a completely different season. I just think when you get to that round of 8, you got to win races to make it to Phoenix, to be confident in your ability to make it to Phoenix. And Byron hasn't won a race since Homestead in March. It's been a long, long time. So I think he's got a shot, but I don't have him making the championship four. It'd be pretty cool if he did make it, but there you have it. I have Elliott, Larson, Truex, and Kyle Busch in the championship four. So now we got to pick a champion. It all comes down to Phoenix. 1 race. So I'm going to keep it simple. Phoenix is a 1 mile flat oval. The Cup cars will run the 750 horsepower low downforce rules package, a rules package they have used at 7 other ovals this season. So I'm going to keep it simple. Let's look at these championship 4 drivers' stats at other 750 horsepower ovals this season. 750 horsepower ovals include tracks like Martinsville, Richmond, Phoenix, of course, Loudon, Nashville Superspeedway, Darlington Raceway, Dover. So these are the types of tracks, these are the numbers I'm looking at. How did these drivers do at those types of racetracks this year? I think that's what's most important. Because in NASCAR today, the 2 different rules packages are so different from each other. I don't think looking at stats with the 550 package really matter when we're talking about Phoenix. So I'm going to focus on the 750 horsepower package. Let's start by comparing their average finish at low downforce ovals this season. Not too shocking. Kyle Larson leads the way with a 6.0 average finish. I put asterisks over Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch's average finishes because Chase Elliott was disqualified at Nashville, so I don't want to factor that in because that blows up his average finish. And Kyle Busch, I'm not going to factor in the New Hampshire race where he was leading when it started raining and NASCAR didn't throw the caution and he wrecked from the lead in DNF there. I'm not going to count that. That's unfair. So I'm putting asterisks by their average finish numbers, but for Larson and Truex, I'm factoring in all 7 low downforce oval races this season. And it's pretty close. Kyle Larson definitely has the lead, but no real surprise there. He won at Nashville Superspeedway in dominating fashion. And he was also 7th earlier this year at Phoenix. Now that race was all the way back in March. Things have changed maybe since then, but worth noting, Larson finished 7th and only led 1 lap in that race. Chase Elliott was 5th in that Phoenix race, but he did not lead any laps, so still good result for Elliott, the driver who won this championship race last year at Phoenix to get the title. Kyle Busch was 25th at Phoenix, so let's not talk about that. He hasn't dominated any 750 horsepower tracks this season. As I mentioned earlier, his strengths typically seem to be the bigger ovals, but he's led some laps here or there at Loudon, at Nashville, at Darlington, at Richmond, so he's usually near the front. But then let's talk about Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. has some pretty fantastic 750 horsepower stats. He has 3 wins this season with this rules package, including that Phoenix race in March, where he won and led 64 laps. He led 248 at Darlington, won that race. He led 107 laps at Richmond. He has been very, very good at a variety of 750 horsepower racetracks. As I said earlier, he's been pretty quiet this summer, but early in the year when we ran a lot of low downforce ovals, Martin Truex Jr. was a force to be reckoned with. Now, let's flip this around. Let's talk about laps led. Total laps led at 750 horsepower tracks, oval tracks, I should say. And again, Kyle Larson at the top has led the most laps, but Martin Truex Jr., you'll see, is not too far behind him. I think everyone is correctly looking at Kyle Larson as maybe the front runner going into these playoffs. I think Kyle Larson is almost a lock to make the championship four. I won't say he is, because last year Kevin Harvick's incidents in the second and third rounds bit us in the butt. But again, as long as Larson does not have 2 or 3 bad races in a row, Larson will be in the championship four. I think everyone is correct in assuming that, but people are assuming Kyle Larson will win this championship. They're looking at Larson as the clear runaway favorite. And I look at these numbers, as well as everything else we've talked about in this video, and I say, not so fast. All around this season, when we talk about intermediate tracks, when we talk about short tracks, when we talk about road courses, Kyle Larson has been the most well-rounded, the best overall driver and team this season. But the way this format is situated, there's an added emphasis put on the 750 horsepower ovals. Everyone knows this. Team Penske knew it last year. That's why Keselowski was so good at Loudon and Phoenix late in the season. Hendrick knows this as well. I'm sure they know that they need to get better at tracks like Phoenix. Joe Gibbs Racing right now, I think, has a slight edge over them, especially Martin Truex Jr. So everyone's talking about Kyle Larson, rightfully so. Everyone's talking about Chase Elliott, the defending champion. My pick for the 2021 Cup Series title is Martin Truex Jr. I think he's going to get it done, his second career championship. It often feels like it's that second or third guy that we haven't talked quite as much about that shows up at Phoenix or shows up at the championship race and gets it done. Joey Logano in 2018. He was not anyone's favorite, I think, going into that weekend, but he won the championship. Last year with Chase Elliott, everyone was talking about Denny Hamlin or Brad Keselowski at Phoenix. Elliott was sort of the third or fourth pick, I think, for most guys. He got it done. I think this year, Martin Truex Jr., who's been quiet for months, will emerge late in these playoffs and win his second ever NASCAR Cup Series championship. So there you have it. I know we've covered a lot of information. I appreciate y'all coming on this journey with me and running the marathon alongside. It's symbolic of the NASCAR season more broadly. It is a marathon from early February to early November, a long, long season. We are nearing the close. We're in the home stretch, 10 races to go. You've seen my playoff predictions now. I want to hear yours down in the comments below. Who's your championship for? Do you have any surprising drivers getting knocked out in the early rounds? Who is your championship pick? Leave a comment down below. I look forward to hearing what y'all have to say, but that's gonna do it for me here on this episode of Out of the Groove. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any other NASCAR commentary, news, rumors, predictions videos in the future. I'll be flying out to Darlington tomorrow, actually, for this weekend's race, so we'll have some exciting content coming from there. As always, a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters as well. I couldn't do this show without your tremendous support. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Take care, y'all. Have a fantastic rest of your day.